stage with me today. Absolutely a pleasure to take time out. Greetings, everyone. Esteemed guests, our panelists, fellow wellness enthusiasts. Today, with this panel, we embark on a journey that transcends the ordinary boundaries of culinary delight and tourism. Our panel discussion dwells into the profound connection between what we eat, how we cook, and the impact it has on our holistic well-being. Our exploration extends beyond consumption, sightseeing, and encompasses a mindful practice that honor the origins of food, savor the intricacies of flavor, and foster a profound appreciation of interconnectedness between all of us. Without further ado, I'd like to, invite the panel, and I would like to pose a couple of questions to you all, and we can take it from there. We'll start with Shipra, ladies first.
Okay.
Shipra, you are a global representation of Indian cuisine. You travel a lot around the world and promote Indian cuisine, representing India and its diversity. As a global brand ambassador, if I may so put it, for Indian cuisine, how do you adapt traditional Indian dishes to cater to international tastes while preserving their authenticity?
Thank you for the question, Samir. It's a wonderful question. I think that's also it's a challenge as well at the same time, right? So, we talk about fusion food, and nowadays it's really in trend to have fusion food. But then fusion, to keep fusion away from confusion, I always say, is that, you need to have the right mix of things. So, keeping the, say, traditional methods with a modern technique, or say a modern cuisine or a modern way of cooking a traditional dish is how you keep it alive. And it really works with the foreign palate because, they're not used to a lot of spices. So getting the techniques which are really age-old. I'll give you an example. There's this very, very delicious and a very different Himachali dish. It's called sepu vadi. Okay, so it's made in like back and beyond of Himalayas. I come from Himachal. And this is like something that's made in villages, right? So I was doing a food festival in one of the countries. I believe it was Spain or France, one of the countries. And then, it was completely for ambassadors and, consular generals. And I made this dish, and there were chefs also, the Michelin star chefs would come there. And they were taken aback with that whole entire dish, They were like, what is this? It was just steamed lentils into, the traditional way of how they would preserve, age-old things. And, because Himachal, for example, is really, really, in winters, it's really difficult to find fresh vegetables. So they preserve a lot of things, and that's how the entire dish is made. The technique is the idea, right? You change the flavors and then you present it in a certain way. I think that's how you put it across and keep the tradition and authenticity alive.
That's fantastic. Any point of time, a lot of countries where you travel, there are people of Indian origin there, there is a possibility they say, but this is not cooked in this way, or this is not authentic, say, any kind of food. Have you encountered any of those kind of experiences, and can you give examples of how you dealt with them?
See, internationally, whenever I do pop-ups or menus, they've actually never complained. Because they would see people who are well-traveled and well-exposed to food, or who are food enthusiasts and they love gourmet food and, had maybe authentic or modern or fusion somewhere or the other. Their palates are quite wide. So they're quite open to flavors. And once you add, say, what I'll tell you is, India now Indian food is really gaining eyeballs outside as well. Foreigners really, UK, yes, you have a lot of restaurants there who are serving Indian food, but at the same time, now is the demand where it's coming from, say, a country like France, where people don't even speak language, they don't even look at Indian food. They're like, we have enough of French, great gourmet food. But now is the time people have started really visiting Indian food. And I met an Australian couple. India is quite popular in Australia, but maybe countries like some parts of Europe, India is not that popular. But now, with gaining popularity, people are really wanting to try the dish or wanting to try flavors and new everything. And mostly, you know, it's made a little sweet for the palate, which is what I don't use in my food. So it kind of differentiates the entire thing, and it's completely a signature menu that is served.
Fabulous. Thank you, Shipra.
Thank you.
Moving on to Sabrina on our panel. Sabrina is a fantastic, chef to celebrities and caterers. Caters to Bollywood and celebrities. Sabrina, in your menu, when we are talking about seasonality and sustainability, in what ways do you incorporate seasonal and locally sourced ingredients into your culinary creations? And, how does this influence sustainability of your cuisine?
Thank you for your question. So as we know, with change in season, all local produce also changes. So every time there is a change in season, the local produce changes. So I feel more than being cost efficient, the greatest advantage of using local produce is it gives a lot of freshness. It possesses a lot of freshness to the menu, and also it tastes better, definitely. Because when we use frozen or non-seasonal food, it does not taste same as fresh, right? So I try to incorporate or I try to reflect certain foods and fruits and vegetables in my menu, which will be power-packed with color and flavor, and at the same time, it makes my recipe shine. So if I have to give an example, so one of the global dish that I do for my clients, be it celebs or Bollywood, so is, for example, if we do salads, right? So normally we use avocados, pomegranate, right? So during summer, I try to incorporate mangoes, be it Alfonso or Badami after the rains. So a lot of mangoes, watermelon, even ice apple for that matter, which
Targola.
Targola, which
Yes.
is very readily available nowadays, and it's really nice. It's delicious. So same in winters, I use a lot of strawberries and guava and maybe tinge of orange. So whatever is locally available, so yes, I try to incorporate that.
Seasonal fruit. But Sabrina, a lot of the fruit which claims seasonal are now available 24
Throughout the year,
24/7
yes.
and throughout the year.
Yes.
How do you and seasonal is different in Maharashtra,
Right.
different in North India, different in South India. So seasonal is very relevant. Do you also procure seasonal fruit from outside and other states, or do you stick to your area?
I mostly try to stick to my area, because then again, if you are procuring it from outside, it's not going to be that fresh, right? So whatever is locally available, I try to incorporate that.
Kunal runs a popular YouTube channel called Khaane Mein Kya Hai. If you haven't seen it, you must log on to YouTube and watch it. Kunal?
Yes, please.
Okay, so a couple of questions. Kunal, let's talk about impact of digital media on culinary trends and sustainability. As the host of the popular YouTube show, how do you see the role of digital media in shaping and influencing contemporary culinary trends, consumer preferences, and sustainability in the country?
Okay, thank you for the question. Digital media, like any other media, has its plus points and its minus points. And in the world where we're living today, where there is media everywhere, we are quite aware of what the negative and positive sides of media are. Having said that, it's an extremely good tool to use to propagate real information, accurate information. Like we were chatting just now before the panel started, we were talking about all the misconceptions about food that we have. Suvir was telling us about how everything that we think is healthy is actually not really healthy. And I think digital media can play a big role in exploding all these various myths that we are surrounded by, which have their basis in probably some sort of business strategy, marketing strategy. Don't forget that even these people who are marketing products and all are also going to be using the same digital media to propagate what they have. But if you can, as a media person, how do I say this? If you can get a certain amount of credibility going, then you can use that medium to actually influence people. Instead of just using the word influencer, if you can be of some real influence, it'll be good, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Your, channel Khaane Mein Kya Hai often highlights regional and lesser known cuisines. How do you approach researching and presenting these cuisine to ensure authenticity and respect the origins of these cuisines?
Well, I present everything by eating it.
Yeah.
So that is the way to do it. But as far as research is concerned, research is multi-pronged. It comes out of people, word of mouth. It comes out of actually going there and tasting the food and seeing whether it's nice or not. As far as authenticity is concerned, I have a bit of a problem with the word authenticity because none of us know what is really authentic. If you take the same dahi kadi that your mother makes, you don't know what your grandmother made or her grandmother made before that. So if you just go down your own family tree, 3 generations, you'll see that the food has changed over generations. So then what is authentic? What is interesting is local cuisines, which are faithful to the area that they come from, which are based on ingredients that they hail from. And that is what I'd probably say is local and authentic food. And we as a country are blessed, unlike many other countries, with the amount of regional varieties of food. Every few kilometers, tastes change. And the more we explore, the more we will find, is what I think.
Thank you, Kunal. That was insightful. Moving on to Suvir. Suvir Saran runs an ice cream brand called Coldplay, as well as is heading Bastian Hospitality. I wasn't aware. I'm supposed to do the introductions to everyone, but yes. Suvir spent several years overseas before coming to India. Suvir, while you were, and he now of course leads Bastian Hospitality, runs restaurants as well as his ice cream brand. Suvir, how you have had experiences globally as well as in India. There have been different culinary landscapes that you worked in. How has that influenced your approach to creating dishes that resonate with both local and global audiences?
Thank you for the question. It's the bane of my life that I was in America in 1993 at the age of 20, influencing, if you're using that word, what people were eating in a fractured nation with a terrible economy coming of age as Bill Clinton took over. The food I was cooking was Indian, it was called cheap and cheery cooking, like it's still called in England as well. It was all buffet style food. And this gay young kid from India had a dream to make a degustation menu, which at that point only French cuisine and perhaps some Northern European cuisines ventured into. And when I opened my restaurant in 2004, I dared to do it with tasting menu paired with wine, 7 and 11 courses. The newspapers and magazines that normally don't review degustation menus because they're expensive ended up reviewing it. We got the first Michelin star that a non-Northern European restaurant got in North America when the guidebook came to America in 2007 for the first time. What I was doing, I was mimicking what Kunal just said, the homes of India. I was the son of a bureaucrat who didn't care if the powers that be transferred him from one state to another when he didn't do what the politicians wanted to do. He was a babu who was doing his job, not being corrupt. So my father said, we are on a Bharat Darshan, we'll travel. So we got to travel and I got to taste India. So my dishes were zimikan ke kofte, pork achar, and I was making bharwa karele, bharwa tinde, and I served them on my menu. Indians would cry that they were now remembering their grandmothers, and non-Indians were like, oh my God, we didn't know Indian food was healthy. So when my book came out, Indian Home Cooking, which is the largest sold Indian cookbook, we've sold over 250,000 copies. That book begins with the 12 recipes of rasam, and then goes into other Indian favorites. I wasn't chasing butter chicken and dal makhani. I was chasing home cooked food of India, without me knowing that it would become healthy, nutritious, and would give me at 25, I became the youngest professor at NYU teaching food studies at the School of Nutrition. At 30, Harvard Medical School came calling and put me on their round table of nutrition. It wasn't me, my good looks, which I don't have. It was the food of India, the everyday cooking of Indian mothers and parents, fathers who cook, and Panditji. We had a Brahmin cook in our family. These cooks who've cooked very wise, simple, delicious, yummy fare that changes with seasons, is authentic to this day and age. While being connected to a past, thinking about the future, Indian food was always sustainable and smart. We were a cuisine of poverty. The Italians make money selling it. It's called cucina povera. The food of the poor. In Italy, they charge more for it. We Indians are ashamed of eating bharwa karela. We only eat tandoori chicken, butter chicken, and all paneer makhani, the rubbish that came in the 1940s and 50s. We've forgotten our old food. I brought that to the US, and I was lucky that those Indians who were living there since the 60s were very proud. If I go to New York today, thappar padenge to give them karelas, because affluent Indians and Bollywood stars have made the not so delicious, healthy foods of India, which are younger, richer, creamier, the mainstay of Indian cuisine. And I've come back to a nation that's really at the brink of the most vulgar obesity pandemic. And with every day that we pass, India is getting sicker by the minute. And what are we eating? Garbage. So what Kunal was talking about, the foods of our past, if we celebrate dal, sabzi, suki sabzi, the grains of India, we would be healthier people. We might become very rich, but the chances are we won't live to see the richness. So I was cooking odd food even today. At Bastian, after all this spectacle and tamasha, the food is actually very sound and yummy, also very mindfully prepared with amazing ingredients. But you know, I've come to a nation that's as broken as America was in 1993.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Suri. Moving on to Saransh. Saransh is a celebrity chef, co-founder of Goila butter chicken and a lot
And it's
more.
yummy butter chicken.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
actually
yeah.
ordered butter chicken.
So 3 cheers for that. Saransh, when we talk about a QSR or a restaurant, and we talk about scaling up, you've got Goila butter chicken in a lot of cities, a lot of outlets in the country, and you constantly are scaling up. When you running a successful food chain, it presents a challenge of maintaining consistent quality across the chain, even though there's a central kitchen, across location. And when you look at food quality and local produce, how do you actually maintain those high standards in so many outlets across the country? What is the formula? What is the strategy and the consistency that you maintain it?
That's a tough question because when you're scaling up, every day is a new day of learning. However, what we have learned is that when it comes to procurement, whether it's vegetables, whether it's meat, whether it's dry store purchase, earlier we used to, when we used to work in hotels, it was a very centralized model, which meant you would stick to one vendor who would distribute the same quality of spice or fruit or vegetable across the country. And I don't think so things work like that anymore, because after restaurants became relevant, and which meant family-owned restaurants or restaurants made by young entrepreneurs, a new sort of wave of chefs and restaurateurs or entrepreneurs came into the segment. I think everybody started to look even at that department differently, which means that now Goila butter chicken, because we're talking about it, has 88 kitchens across the country, and they are well spread out across north, east, west, and south. So now we have different vendors in all these corners. We don't have a centralized vendor for chicken. We don't have a centralized vendor for tomato. It makes our job harder because we have to predefine, okay, we have to try and find similar tomato, whichever territory we go to. And often it's very difficult because when we will procure the tomato in the east and in a certain season versus when we procure tomato here in the same season, there will be a certain differentiation in the product. So when I go to Calcutta and I try my butter chicken, and when I am in Mumbai and I try my butter chicken, they will taste marginally different because the tomatoes are being sourced locally, because the chicken is being sourced locally from a vendor. A few months back, we gave away with all the plastic we had, so that was a tough one for us. But the climate is asking for it, right? None of us can run away from it. And the bigger your brand is, the more responsibility you shoulder. That fine, you will have now. Every day I wake up to 50 DMs of my butter chicken spilt because it's paper and it might be leaking when it's reaching people. So if you're doing 3,000 parcels a day, maybe 30 are actually creating a problem because when there is no plastic involved, it's difficult to send hot food to people's homes, especially curries. And it's difficult to make the customer understand when somebody is hungry and hangry. So you have to make these calls at some point in your journey. And as a chef who also believes that we need to be more local, I wholeheartedly agree with Chef Suvir on the seasonality, locality of our cuisine. The fact that we need to eat, and we should be proud of the kind of food we have. Like now for a couple of years, I'm very happy that the government supports millets. Like the millet movement is large. So now we are considering having a millet biryani on our menu. So that in our 88 kitchens, not everybody has to order the same old chicken tikka biryani. We can change that. And we hope that people order from us because the word is getting spread. But you have to take that initiative and at least put it on the menu. And that's how people will start acknowledging and start growing. So I think millets are huge. They're also climate friendly. When we talk about sustainability, I think they are the only ones who would sort of survive all the climate change we are seeing. Yesterday there was a dust storm in Mumbai, or day before. We couldn't see what was happening in the city. So when all of this is going to happen, it's an eye-opener that we need to eat what we are getting, what belongs to our land. We need to stop eating a lot of avocado. We need to stop probably eating more mango. But there is an Indian avocado now, so there is that. So you don't need to spend 500 rupees for one piece. You can spend 100 and then get one. But yeah, so the idea is to also apply everything we spoke about to a chain. So the change is not just boutique, which is happening in small clusters. We need to make sure it's also wider. Whether it's packaged food or food you're calling from restaurants or going to restaurants for, or cooking at home. We need to see that change in the whole cycle and not just at one particular point.
May I just, if I may, because I'm a big fan of your butter chicken. It's delicious. And I'm a big fan of Suvir and what you said as well. If we could, since we are... What did we do wrong? Nothing. So, it being a festival of well-being and me being not qualified as all the people on this panel, besides the fact that I eat a hell of a lot, there are two kinds of Indian cuisines, if I may call it that, Ghar ka khana and Bahar ka khana. So there is the restaurant food Indian cuisine, which nobody ever cooks at home. So yet it's tasty. Like a good butter chicken, which is not a home recipe really, or a good, say, murg musallam, or a Punjabi samosa, or kachori. And this delicious food, I know it's full of fat and it's deep fried and it's... It has a place. Yeah, it has a place. So if we're talking well-being, I think a little control on our own consumption. You eat it, but don't eat it every day. You eat more ghar ka khana on a regular basis and cheat with some really oily, buttery food once in a while. I think if we can find this balance in our lives, I think we'd all be better off.
And we thank chefs like Saransh who are giving us that biryani with millet. Thank you.
Yeah.
But you know, the millet story, we're a festival of well-being, is a dangerous story to perpetuate, to celebrate past its year. Before millet, there was quinoa. Before quinoa, there was farro. And there were other ancient grains. The idea should be eat ancient grains. Don't change the planet. There are many farmers who've now gone and created farms to celebrate these commodities like avocado, millet, quinoa, farro. You can't keep changing their lives into churns of depression, of destruction, and then madness. So as humans, we need to moderate moderation. Eat what makes sense, lots of color, lots of variety, and eat mindfully. Diets fail you. And I've literally taught these class called Healthy Kitchens, Healthy Lives at Harvard School of Public Health for 20 years, where physicians and surgeons come to learn from us. And we tell them just to eat everything in moderation, mostly plant-based, and follow the old Indian diet, you won't go wrong.
And also adding to that, about sustainability. So when we talk about sustainability, I think chefs have a very, very big role to play in it. Firstly, just advocating it and making people aware of what sustainability is. Sustainability on one hand, yes, you procure all your ingredients locally. Even if you're cooking at home, just help the local vendors or people around you, right? To form a community, right? A sense of support to each other and to make the business grow. And that is how millets came about when millets was the grain for 2023, and I was also promoting it with the government of India. And the whole idea of consuming millets, there are a couple of reasons, right? So firstly, it's a crop in itself which helps in sustainability. It doesn't need too much rain, it doesn't need too much sun, it doesn't need anything, it'll just grow in the wild, right? So you're not spending any sauce getting it, any type, whether it's foxtail millet or whether it's jowar, bajra, ragi. So, these grow in the wild, they are readily available, they are so cheaply available at the local vendors that you have. So if you are sourcing your ingredients like that, you're already contributing to sustainability. Secondly, when you talk about sustainability, it's not only what you're procuring from around, but also, reducing the food wastage, which also automatically becomes sustainability. Like within your house, when you're making food with like leftover food or, just circle it around, or like there's so many restaurants actually, there's, whatever food end of the day before the restaurant gets shut is left, they just distribute it to people who are going to eat rather than throwing it in the bin. Right? So at home also we can do that. Like if you see St. Regis bottles, they've started using glass bottles. All the big hotels are doing it, not using plastic. They have their own plant filling up bottles. That is also adding to sustainability. Also, since we all are there, yes, we all are like from the food, I don't know the backgrounds of all the people present here, but then at the same time, if you yourself at home, just segregating waste and follow small things, I think it just adds to sustainability, which is going to give like a longevity of environment to the future generations, right? Like we can't, the world is blasting with global warming. I mean, I was in Kitzbühel and then during the skiing season, so the skiing season is shortened by a month. There's no snow. Things are like, where they're supposed to be hot, it's cold, the weather is completely haywire. This is all global warming. So we should be, and I think, this generation, thanks to social media, they're so aware. I think, when I speak in universities and talk to the students, everybody's so aware and they want to bring in a difference, So I think these small things will really add up to a bigger picture of, letting the future generations also enjoy what we are enjoying or we have enjoyed. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Food wastage was one point which Shipra brought up, which I wanted to talk about and ask opinions that what all do we do in our kitchens, whether at home or restaurants or, even in institutions, that we do to recycle, wastage, recycle food, do not waste any peels or watermelon. What are the different things a common man can do, since many are professional chefs here, but what can an individual do in the home kitchen to sustain this, movement of no food wastage? on a regular basis is what I want to understand. Because this all is fabulous, but as a person sitting in the audience, I want to know what I can do at my house.
So, one of the first things we have to understand is eating local doesn't always mean eating deliciously. Yeah. So, if you're not using some ingredients that bring your kids to the table, they'll be going to McDonald's and all the crappy places that we don't want them to go and have unsustainably unhealthy lives. So, a little cheating is good. And other than that, I think Indian kitchens have all the recipes right there. Dantal ko kaise use karna hai, usko chota kaatoge. You cut them very fine into brunoise. You saute them in the oil at the beginning. You get the essence of that vegetable that you're browning. You get those bacon bits that we put by adding bacon into a dish, by cooking the dantal dark and caramelized. So Indian food has, just go, use your brain and eat the Indian way. And it's a lot of the nose to tail, the full non-waste cooking is in our system, in our minds. We need to reinvigorate them. We have to think.
Yeah, if nothing else, just make a vegetable broth out of all the leftover vegetables and they taste so good.
And
Use
fish broth with these
bones and everything, or maybe the skin of, say, for example, skin of onions. You know, you can just like bake it, char it, and just have something going on the plate. It's really amazing.
Thank you.
I was just saying that also, as in, I follow a couple of sustainable influencers on Instagram, and they actually show you some very cool hacks, like how to use bioenzyme at home. And it will take a bit of effort. So I will not lie when you say that how can a person, like even a chef who's studied about all of this, who cares deeply about it, but when I have to do it in my own kitchen at home, I realized that it takes some effort. It took me 15 days to understand that process of how can I sort of recycle the waste that I'm producing in my own kitchen and in my own home. So I had to spend 15 days watching these reels, understanding, learning from them. I DM'd one of them. She invited me home. I saw how she sort of recycles all the waste in her kitchen. So it will take a bit of effort from our end also to be able to sort of, recycle waste at home.
Wow, thank you. So guys, do research, get onto YouTube, get onto Instagram, and follow sustainability and no food wastage. Thank you, panel. I think we've got so much more to talk about, but and so much to learn from each one of you, but don't have time. Before we end the panel, we have a fantastic book reveal.